Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com with an ESO Stamina Templar PvP build for the Elder Scrolls Online Update 29, Flames of Ambition. So in this guide, we're going to cover all the juicy information so you know exactly what I've been playing on stream and how to use it. Skills, gear, race choice, consumables, champion points, attributes, you name it, we got it here. You're going to want to pick up this build if you want something that's durable, has a lot of resource sustain, looks cool, it's fun. It's just a lot of fun to play, both in Battlegrounds and Cyrodiil. It's good in this patch and should be really good in June. So when the Blackwood chapter comes out, if things stay as they are, this thing's going to be even better. So hopefully it's going to get stronger. You're not having to re-roll something. So Stamina Templar, PvP, let's get to it. Okay, we're going to talk about gear first. And gear, currently in the game, there are two different types of gear systems that you can use. Cyrodiil for no procs and Battlegrounds proc sets. I'm going to stick with proc sets and spend the majority of the time because the way the game's looking, proc sets are coming back and they're not going anywhere. So we're going to start with that first. Eternal Vigor is an overland set Western Skyrim, and it's fantastic. Came from the Greymoor DLC. Reason being is, gives you incredible resource sustain in 5 pieces, comes in heavy armor, and if you dip below 50% health, it switches over to health recovery. So think of it as a way to kind of like keep yourself alive. It just knows to switch over there if you dip below. You pop you back up, switch back on resource sustain, and I love this set because it just adds to our survivability. So that way we can get in these high burst fights and not get nuked. Because when you start out, your MMR is low, yeah, you can rack up the kills. But when you move up the ladder in Battlegrounds, I'm telling you, you're going to need something that's a little heavy, a little sturdier, and this fits the bill. Next 5 piece, I'm going to give you some meta loadouts and kind of what I use. So I'm not a big fan of running a bazillion proc sets. Therefore, I run Spriggans as my main 5 piece on jewelry, and I run 2 swords for the increased weapon damage via the dual wield passives. Spriggans is an overland set, gives you physical penetration as the main 5 piece, so it's going to allow your abilities to hit harder. It's found in Vanguard, very easy to get a hold of, and it's going to add a lot of damage. Very easy, nice 5 piece that we've been running for years. However, it is actually not meta. So I'm going to give you 2 kind of meta sets that you can run, though just realize that's a lot of procs. Another meta set that you can run is Oblivion's Foe. This is kind of like the new version of Slodes. It's going to hit very hard and give a really nasty damage over time effect. So either both of those, if you're looking for the optimal damage, those are 2 of them. Monster Helm, speaking of optimal damage. Salines, another proc set. I'm going to run it on my Monster Helm because I have enough survivability and everything else. So I'm going to do Salines, nice burst. You could also go with Blargs that use an ultimate, get really nasty, juicy burst, but Salines works for me. If you're struggling with resource sustain, which should not be an issue, you could roll with Engine Guardian. Another option would be Bloodspawn. It's good all around, going to give you some ultimates. And then the big deal here with this build is the Vatishram 2H. What it's going to allow you to do when you're in combat is build up stacks, increasing your weapon damage. But it's also going to allow you to heavy attack and proc a massive AoE damage that does a whole lot of damage in the area. So it's basically free damage along with Salines. They're going to proc both at the same time with your poisons, and people are almost going to insta-die. So if you throw on another proc set on top of that, I'm telling you, it's going to be nasty. I'm not a big fan of proc sets, to be honest, but I'm tired of getting smoked by them all the time. So if you want to actually be in the fight and do really good in top M, MMR, Battlegrounds, you just got to run them. And the Vatishram 2H is just disgusting powerful. I picked up a sword, went with the defending trait. That way my back bar, which is really my 2H, is my back bar buff bar. I'm not going to have a whole lot of damage coming in, making me more survivable. And then my dual wield swords are going to be running sharpened trait. That's a really nasty setup. 2 5 pieces, Monster Helm with a back bar for Vatishram. It's very, very good. Talk about the skills. We'll start with the dual wield tree. Power to Light is our first ability on our bar, working left to right. And what it does is allow you to have range. It's burst. It's going to stack up damage, kind of like a balloon, and then explode after 6 seconds. It also is going to proc the Dawn's Wrath passive. That's going to give us ultimate for using every 6 seconds. So it's going to allow us to get ultimate up. It's cheap. It's at range, comes in very handy, and you're going to kind of prime someone by putting this on them and then giving them a lot of burst. Next up is Quick Cloak. It's mobility and survivability tool. So this is nice, gives you a burst of speed, but also gives you major evasion, so allowing you, along with heavy armor, to get in those heavy AoE fights and not get smoked instantly. Really nice setup. Third, we have Repentance. It's a resource healing tool that we're going to use corpses when they die to suck them up, get some resources, and stay in the fight. And also, it gives us a little buff just having our bar as well. Very, very good ability, but consider this a flex spot. I'd go with Camo Hunter if you wanted to do a lot more damage. That's in the Fighters Guild, but I like Repentance for the survivability. Biting Jabs is our main spamable. It is technically AoE, but we're going to primarily use it when enemies are about 50% or higher in health. When they get below, we're going to switch to another ability. Also, using this is going to give us a critical weapon critical buff. It's also going to give us a buff when we activate it as well. So it's very, very good. You're going to want to use it in your rotation. Once you're surrounded by a bunch of enemies in a radius, or someone dips below 50%, you're going to switch to Whirling Blades. This is an AoE execute, and you're going to use it initially after a Dawnbreaker, or you got your buffs and your procs running, and you hit someone, you're going to instinctively use this. But set them up with Biting Jabs, and then usually 1 or 2 Whirling Blades will finish them off. DB, Donnie Deltia, deals physical damage over time, 6 seconds, but it's going to hit them up front like a truck and a stun. So reliable stun is cheap. Slotting Fighters Guild on our bar is going to give us ultimate back when we get killing blows as well. It's just a no-brainer for stand build, why I call him Donnie Deltia. Bar 2 is going to be our 2H bar. This is going to be primarily for buffs and our Vatashram weapon. First ability up is Channel Focus. It's going to give us armor buff. It's going to give us a resource sustain tool. And next patch, if it goes live, is going to heal us for standing in. Filthy, disgusting heals. It's fantastic. It's low cost. So what we do is, when we're in combat, we're going to cast this repeatedly to get 5 stacks up of our Vatashram weapon. It's kind of a cheesy, easy way to get those 5 stacks and do a fully charged heavy and just smoke someone. Number 2, we got 4 Momentum. This is going to be our weapon damage buff, and it's also a mobility tool. So if you're snared or you want snare and immobilization immunity, you're going to pop this, get into the fight. Works really well running a heavy armor build, so we don't have to run shuffle. Next up, Extended Ritual Cleanse negative effects. 5 effects. It's going to heal you while you're in the area. So those nasty damage over time effects that we're constantly getting, or a Dragonite, locks you in, smokes you up with 5 dots. You're going to cast this once. It has a huge magic cost. So that's why we have a whole bunch of resources, a whole bunch of magic and stamina, because we're going to cast this quite a bit in PvP. Next ability up is Biting Javelin. So it's a single target knockback and stun. I don't spam this, but this is kind of how I deal with not having a gap closer. Is on my back bar, I'll cast this, bar swap instantly, then close the gap when someone's stunned. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but I have too many important abilities on my bard to give it up. I really like this setup. Resolving Vigor, it's our heal over time. It's really nice. This is our primary means to heal ourselves, and you want to drop Channel Focus down and Extended Ritual. It's going to increase that healing, so it's going to be very, very nice. Also, you want to get all those debuffs off you. So you'll kind of see me when I'm playing do my Focus and then do my Extended Ritual and kind of come back into it before I do a Vigor. You want to get the most out of that. 6th ability up is Temporal Guard, low cost alt that I travel back in time when I'm in trouble, and also slotting it is going to give me some reduced damage as well. If you don't have the Sigic Order and it's a pain in the butt to get the skill line unlocked, I can relate. I'd go with Remembrance in the Restoring Light tree. You're kind of stationary. It's not 100% ideal, but I've survived tons and tons of stuff. Popping this, sitting there, getting my resources back, potion comes off cooldown, click it, do a dodge roll, and I'm surviving. It's hard to get a hold of me. Okay, champion points. I'm just going to go over the slottables. I have a written guide on my website. Click on that link in the description below if you want all the juicy details about champion points. But we're going to stick in fitness, and we're going to go to rejuvenation is 50, expert evasion, boundless vitality, and also slippery. So this setup is going to give us resource sustain. It's going to give us some max health, and it's going to make it a lot easier when we're breaking free and dodge rolling not to blow through our stamina. So I primarily play this in Battlegrounds, so if you were to play Cyrodiil champion points, that's what I'd use. Coming over to Warfare, Duelist rebuff to reduce our damage, Untamed Aggression to increase our weapon damage, Endless Endurance And then you can really flex with deadly aim or the one that does damage with AoE. It really just depends on what you're primarily using to do damage. So play around with it and see what works best for you. In the green tree, I just run Treasure Hunter, Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, then a Flex, just because it's kind of nice to have those things, especially if I'm blowing through high-end poisons and potions and food and all that. But those aren't really that relevant. Moving on to racial choices, Orc provides the best speed and weapon damage, does have a nice lot of max stats. I'm actually playing this on an Imperial, and the reason I like the Imperial, it has great resource sustain with cost reduction and huge max stat pool. Really, you could play with almost anything. Redguard probably has the best sustain. Khajiit has some interesting mechanics as well. I'd also recommend Dunmer. If you like to flex from PvE and PvP, Dunmer seems to be the best overall race for me. Consumables, I use Artemium Takeaway Broth, Tripods, and Immovable Potions. They give you health and stamina and immovability back. Poisons, I've tried a lot of different ones. Escapist poisons, various varieties work well. And also just the straight up damage health ones do a lot. Mundus Stones. The default Mundus Stone I think you'd stick with is the Warrior increases weapon damage. It's going to be good with everything. If you're struggling with sustain, which you shouldn't be, I'd go with the Serpent for stamina recovery. Or you could go with the Lover for more penetration and get a little bit more damage. And that's the setup and kind of how you play this build. I'll kind of speak to that offensively first. Offensively, what you're going to want to do is light someone up with Power of the Light, okay? You got 6 seconds to essentially nuke them down. So assuming you have 5 stacks of your Vatishran weapon, you're going to close the distance on your dual wield bar, having Power of the Light up, Quick Cloak, and your other buffs up. You're going to fully charge a heavy attack, try to land it, and then immediately go into a Biting Jab or Whirling Blades. If you have a DB up, Dawnbreaker, and you just want to completely wreck someone, you're going to click it, landing all 3 things at once. And if your poisons fire off, someone's going to be basically vaporized. Power of the Light goes off, you're going to hit Whirling Blades, finish them off. That's how you play this offensively. How you play this defensively is you're going to use Channel Focus as your house and then Extended Rituals to get off all the nasty effects, and then a Resolving Vigor. You're going to use your Javelin to kick and punt people back off of you. So when you're on your back bar and you're playing defensive trying to heal yourself, stun people. Get them off. Get yourself a break. And then also use Repentance as you see bodies available. And don't forget Quick Cloak. Mobility is a great way to survive. Pop your ultimate by using Elevation. So if you're on Elevation, you're taking a lot of pressure, you're going to go down knowing instinctively that you're going to click that ultimate undo. So you go boom, teleport right back on top of them, and then you can escape and get away. Use dodges pretty frequently. We have 4 well-fitted traits, so don't be afraid to dodge into a vigor, knock people back, try to escape, and line of sight. Don't be out in the open being a hero. We have no way to reflect something in this build, so be out of the way, line of sight, put your focus, your house down, heal up, get back in the action and nuke people. And that's basically a build, so you can swap in a couple different things. Gear setups and be a little bit more meta, but it works very, very well. Extremely survivable, fun, high mobility. It's a great playstyle. I recommend picking it up. My main kind of PvP class, actually, if you will, that I do prefer because I have the mobility. I have the burst. It looks cool. It has all the cool, fun bells and whistles the Templar class has. I can get some outside ultimates and make it really nasty. And the gear just fits well. Stamina is very strong, and it's only going to get stronger. So pick this build up as a starting point. Tune it for the way you play, and get ready. Because if Blackwood goes live with the proposed changes, it's going to be disgusting good. Thanks for watching.